Well, I know what you're all probably wondering about, and yes, I did see the Taylor Swift announcement this week. It's sort of whatever to me. I feel like the new stuff's not as good as the old stuff, but it's sort of whatever you're into. Hey, my name is Josh Bayne. I'm the college pastor here. So glad you're here today, part 2 of the series. I actually want to begin today by talking about golf. Again, yep. If you follow golf, almost certainly you know about Scotty Scheffler. Are you familiar with Scotty's press conference he did last month, I should say. Scotty's the #1 golfer in the world. He had this press conference right before he would go on to win the Open Championship, quite easily, by the way, in not very dramatic fashion. He's 29 years old, has career earnings of $143 million. So super similar to me in so many ways. I just feel like we're so similar. But he had this press conference that literally made the whole golf world, the whole sports world be like, wait, what did he say? And this is what he said, a couple of days before winning another major tournament. He's one shy. He's going to win the career Grand Slam on his 30th birthday, by the way, next year, U.S. Open. Anyways, look it up. But this is what he said. He said, it's like, why do I want to win this golf tournament so badly? Why do I want to win the Open Championship so badly? I don't know, because if I win, it's going to be awesome for 2 minutes. Playing professional sports is a really weird thing to do. It really is, just because we put in so much effort, we work so hard for something that's so fleeting. It really is. The feeling of winning just doesn't last that long. When I sit back at the end of the year and try to reflect on things like having that sense of accomplishment from winning the Masters tournament, from winning the PGA Championship, I have a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for it, but it's just hard to explain how it doesn't. And then he paused and he said, it just doesn't satisfy is how I would describe it. It's an unsatisfying venture. And so I'll tell you who today is for. Today is for anybody who's ever had this thought. There's got to be more to life than this. Despite all your accomplishments, and for as great as a lot of us look on the outside, and this is a very good-looking church, by the way. If you're here for the first time, you're like, yeah, it really is. Have you ever had that thought? Have you ever had that question in your mind? There's got to be more to this. I mean, how many men in this room in their mid-30s to maybe early to mid-40s, you got the job, you got the family, you got the house, you got the mortgage, and it's still just something's missing. You're like, is this going to be my life for the next 30 years? Spoiler alert, probably so, right? If you do it right. How many college students in this room? You tried all the, maybe you're a college student, you tried all the things last year, your first couple of years at the church, you're in the city. You tried this, and you tried that, and you're still something's missing. I mean, you're a year or 2 into college, and you're like, this is the best 4 years of my life. I have 2 cents in my bank account. I live in a crappy apartment. This is the best 4 years of my life. And you're sort of just left with that feeling of something's missing. There's got to be more to life than this. And I just want to tell you, that's not just a you thing. That's a human thing. I would say that's an American thing. In fact, growing up in school, you probably heard of this guy, Alexis de Tocqueville. He's a French philosopher, historian, came over a couple hundred years ago from France to study America, to write back and tell all the French people how great it is over here. And this was his observation. This is what he observed about America 200 years ago. Quote, a strange melancholy that haunts the inhabitants in the midst of abundance. In other words, some of us are living the good life, or what we thought was the good life, and we're still not happy. It still doesn't satisfy. We made the team. This is what we were living for. And still just something's not there. And I want to explain today what that is, what's going on with that. And why you're not crazy if you've ever felt that before. So like we heard earlier, we're in part 2 of the series called Chasing the Good Life. And today I want to explore this idea of there must be more through a character in the Bible by the name of Jacob. You may have heard of Jacob. Jacob is Abraham's grandson. If you brought your Bible, we're going to be in Genesis 28. Go ahead and turn to Genesis 28. I'll get you caught up. So Jacob is on the run. Jacob is literally fleeing for his life. He deceived his father. He stole from his brother, kind of stole his brother's birthright, his brother's inheritance. He would actually never see either of his parents alive again. That's how much he's running. And he's just empty. He's sort of living that same, what is life all about, this kind of journey that a lot of us are on. And yet, even still, despite his sin and despite his running, Jacob is about to encounter God, or shall I say, God is about to encounter Jacob in a really positive way. So Genesis chapter 28, beginning in verse 10, This is how the story starts. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Now, call me immature, but I love that it's called Beersheba. Sorry. They're probably a few drinks in when they named that town, is all I'm saying. Actually, this is a true story. I looked it up because I was intrigued. It used to be called Sheba, and then something happened, and they renamed it Beersheba, and that just makes me happy. I don't know what would have to happen for us to rename our town from Athens to Beer Athens? Yeah, probably not a lot is the answer to that question, right? Anyways, but that's the real name of the town. This is history. Verse 11, when he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, is a picture, stone, he put it under his head and he lay down to sleep. And normally, even back then, they would have had a blanket, would have slept on a blanket or some animal skins, or would have made a kind of a makeshift pillow, stuffed some of the fabric together. But instead, he's lying on the ground with his head on a rock. And it just got me thinking, we get so focused sometimes on what we're running from that we don't give a lot of thought about what we're running to. And that's Jacob. He's out here just running. He's out here chasing God knows what. Doesn't even really know what he wants, right? And the problem with that is if you don't know what you're looking for, who knows where you're going to end up? That's been a lot of our story, right? I mean, nobody ends up sleeping on a rock on purpose. But as he so often does, God meets us at rock bottom, amen? And that's what happens in the story in verse 12. Verse 12 says this, he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. We should have played the song today. That's a missed opportunity. This is where the song comes from, Stairway to Heaven. That's where that idea comes from. I'm being for real. And the angels of God were ascending. Everybody say ascending. And descending. Everybody say descending. On it. Remember that. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. Now, prior to this, there is no evidence in the scriptures of Jacob having a personal relationship with God. He only mentions God one time, and that's when he's deceiving his dad, and he calls him the Lord, your God. I'm here because the Lord, your God, told me to do this. In fact, God speaks the same way about Jacob. He doesn't say, hey, it's me, the Lord, your God. He says, it's me, the God of, Abraham, the God of Isaac, because like a lot of us, Jacob wasn't looking for God. Jacob was just looking for blessing. Jacob was just looking for the good life. And it's just true. If you don't have God in your life, you will spend your entire life looking for blessing elsewhere. You'll become whoever you have to become to get it. You'll do exactly what Jacob did. You'll pretend to be somebody you're not just so you can hear somebody say that they approve of you. That's what Jacob did. Jacob wasn't looking for God. But God was looking for Jacob. God wanted to give Jacob, he wants to give us. He wants to give Jacob a blessing that Jacob doesn't even deserve. He wants to give Jacob a good life that he definitely didn't earn. Keeps going. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are like. Think about this grace, by the way, to a guy who doesn't know God at all. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will be spread out to the west and the east. That's a good thing. To the north and the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place. I love this. And I was not aware of it. And I came to tell somebody this. That's the first step in the spiritual journey. Just waking up to the idea that maybe there's more happening around me than I thought. Maybe God was here and I didn't even realize it. There's more happening around me than my eyes can see. We live life in 4 dimensions. So 3 spatial and 1 time. But even string theorists would say there's at least 10 or 11 dimensions we can't see, or total. Some would say 26. Some would say an unlimited amount of dimensions happening all around us in the universe. The point is this. What Jacob is experiencing is what many of us have or are experiencing, which is that idea of there's got to be something more. I mean, does anybody here ever feel, again, Christian or not, does anybody here ever feel like something's missing in your life? What is that? I mean, so many guys come to faith in college because after having tried everything else, they still get to the end of all of that, 2 years in, 3 years in, and they realize something's missing. I met a girl about a year ago. She came up to me after a college night. It's right over there. And she said, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I've never been to church ever before in my life. And I was like, that's pretty rad. Like, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? That's sort of weird. And she said, this was said, she said, I had a really rough year last year. And I realized I needed some sort of higher power. And I'm starting to believe that exists. She said, a girl in my sorority invited me. I looked at the pictures on Instagram and, quote, it looked like something I could do. I love that. But that's sort of, I had a rough year and I need a higher power and I'm starting to believe in that exists. Jacob would say, surely that's God. Surely that thing that the thing that's out there, the thing that you're tapping into is God, and maybe he was here the whole time. That's the first step in the spiritual journey. He keeps going, verse 17. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This place rules. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head, and I love this, set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. I mean, come on, somebody. God wants to take your mess and turn it into a monument. There's a word for somebody. That God will take the symbol of your shame, sleeping on a rock, how did I get here? And he will turn it into a symbol of his deliverance in your life, of his grace in your life. That's what he did for Jacob when Jacob's eyes were open. He called that place Bethel, which means 12-minute worship song. The city, okay, church crowd, good to know. Good, the 9:15 is always a little more church than the 11, good to know. Though the city used to be called Luz. No, Bethel really means house of God. Why did he call it house of God? Because he believed he had found the magic spot. He believed that was the literal place that heaven and earth met. He said, this is the gate of heaven. This is how I get to heaven. See, Jacob thought the gate was a place. And in a sense, this is all what all of us long for. We all long for that thing or that place or that person that's going to help us transcend, that's going to lead us to the good life. So, when I was a kid, what do you put your hope in? My hope was in shoes. So I remember 6th grade, I got the brand new Penny Hardaway shoes. All the 90s kids know what I'm talking about. These were just incredible shoes. Now, this was a picture of me in the 6th grade. So, started from the bottom, now we're here. So obviously, this guy, it didn't matter what shoe, he was getting the girls anyway. So it didn't really matter what shoes. But that was my hope. As a 6th grader, it was like, I got these Penny Hardaway shoes, and I'll save up my allowance, and I got the cool. They were the black ones, by the way, they were cooler than the white ones. And this is my thing. I'm going to make it, And then you get to college, and it sort of changes a little bit, and it's more about, I got to build my resume. College students know what I'm talking about. I got to get in with the right people. And then you kind of, after college, it's all about kind of the stock family photo. Can I just build the best sort of, Christmas card that I can? The problem is everybody else's Christmas card is better looking than our Christmas card, right? Or their kids behave better, or, they got a nicer house or whatever. And so a couple years ago, I thought, here's what I need to do. This will help me. I'm going to get in the gym. So I joined a gym. They told me it was not as bad as CrossFit. That's what was their warning. And I went for one day. I threw up 3 times on the one day. And here's my question. How bad is CrossFit, people? That's what I really want to know. And so that was sort of Globo Gym. Now I go to Average Joe's. And I was there literally this week. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, man, do you want me to show you what you're doing wrong? And I was like, not really. This guy's going to eat me if I don't say yes. So the gym's not really working for me. So we all have our sort of, always looking for that thing. Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying it is in every person's nature to elevate something to be the answer. This is it. This is my golden ticket. If I just get that job, if I just get into that thing, if I make the swim team, whatever it is, we're all sort of, prone to do that. Now, can we talk about the ladders? You're like, what, ladders? I didn't even see so they got some ladders here. So a lot of times this story in Genesis is called Jacob's ladder. You've heard that expression before. This is where it comes from. That idea of this is the ladder, and if I climb it, then I get to heaven, right? This is the good life, right? No worries. Then it's going to get easier. Then I'll be able to rest. Then I'll be okay. Then our kids will be okay, right? Then I'll be validated. And, like Jacob too, we have visions too. But our visions have different ladders. Now, I'm not going to climb these ladders because I don't want to end up on YouTube or TikTok. That's just not really what I'm looking to do today. But when we think about our pursuit of the good life in Athens, Georgia, college students, adults, what are some of the ladders that we're putting our hopes in? I brought some toys. I would say one of those would be friends. I'm not saying you idolize the TV show Friends, though some of you absolutely do that. That's another talk for another time. But friends, right? And the thing is, there's always, we try to get in on the inner circle, but there's always another inner circle. I'm going to put this up there. And you would say that friends is not your thing, but if you struggle with people pleasing, then maybe you do. Maybe that is the sort of pursuit, the ladder you're trying to climb. Another one is success. You could call this work. I mean, how many of us, the only ladder you care about, and this is why your schedule's so crazy, is you're trying to climb the ladder at work. Now, we should do a whole series about that, and we have, but trying to climb the ladder of success, the studies would say that's not really about joy. You don't climb that ladder out of joy. You climb that out of fear. All right, that's a little free counseling for somebody. Okay, how about fun experiences? Anybody been to Hawaii lately? This is, always living for the next thing. This is why does every trip have to be better than the last one? How come your 15 years got to be better than your 10 year? Right? Who says the 20 years got to be better than the 15? I mean, some of us, when you got married, you started out and you were going to Myrtle Beach, and you were so happy to go to Myrtle Beach. And now if I told you were going to Myrtle Beach, you'd be like, is Rosemary Beach closed? Is everything okay? He's a jerk. We like Myrtle Beach. Okay, I get it, all right? So what about love? Anybody climbing this, right? Right? Sort of living on Love Island the whole time, right? College students. This is the college thing, right? It doesn't really matter how you climb the ladder, so long as you get to the top and you grab the ring by spring of your senior year, then you've won college. And if you don't, then you lost college. That's the way a lot of us feel with the ladder of love that we're climbing. Obviously, I got 3 kids, so the kids' ladder is a real one. This is the most expensive ladder, by the way. And the only ladder that talks back. I don't know what's up with that. But how many of us feel, come on, do you feel like you're just always having to do more for your kids, always providing more, always doing more, always providing more? And then obviously, because you climb that ladder, now you need the money ladder as well, right? And we're just absolutely exhausted. I mean, for some of us, that money ladder, that's the one you think about the most. You are measuring your worth off of your net worth. That's a problem. The only thing that counts to you are things that you can count. That would be yours. And look, we are all climbers by nature. God put that in us. That's not bad. And we get praise for climbing some of these. But come on, do any of those ladders actually deliver on what we're looking for? I mean, this is why people say there must be more to life than this. That's something you say at the top of the ladder. That's only something you say when you reach the top of the ladder and you realize there's nothing there. That's only something you say when you reach the top of the ladder and I thought this was going to do it for me. It's top of the ladder people that say there must be more to life than this. When you're at the bottom of the ladder, you think like Jacob did. You go, this is it. This is the gate to heaven. When I get married or when I get the money or when I get the job, have some success in my life, and we find our friends, then I'm going to be okay. But it's top of the ladder people that say, I thought for sure money was going to do it. I thought for sure getting married was going to do it. I thought for sure that promotion, or if I got in that fraternity, right? Well, then what do? Then we just start trading ladders, right? We go, I tried a couple blonde ladders. Maybe I need to try a brunette ladder, right? Or I tried the work thing, and maybe I'll try the work from home ladder and see if that works. And we spend our whole life just flipping ladders, just trading ladders. This is so important, and this will save you so much frustration in your life. But the reason we climb these ladders is this. The ladders are only a means to an end. These ladders are a means to an end. We climb these ladders to get to something else. In other words, these aren't the deep things in life that we really want. Now, some theologians will call these idols. I get what they mean by that. But if that's true, these are really just the surface idols. There's actually deeper idols in our life. If you've taken notes, write down surface idols and deep idols. The deep idols of our heart, the things that really give us such intensity in our heart are things like this, like security. How do I know I'm really safe? You could also call that control. Comfort, looking for something or somebody to soothe us, help us calm down. Approval, never feel like I'm enough. And power, not that you want to be better than other people, maybe, but I mean energy and strength and authority. And yes, again, we climb the ladders, but you're really climbing the ladder for one of these things. And so is your spouse, and so is your roommate. They make all these decisions that drive you crazy, and you're like, what are they doing? What are they after? You thought they were after these things. No, they're after the deeper things. She's after control. He's after security, right? It's about approval. And what's a little wild to think about is this. All the deeper ones, all the deep kind of longings of our heart, they can use any ladder they want to get to us. It doesn't matter which one. So if your kind of deep thing is security, well, security can offer money as that path. They'd be happy to do that. Or can it interest you in some friends, right? Or perhaps a career. If it's comfort, comfort can offer you some love, but comfort would also love to give you a vacation. So a super, super important question, really for this whole series, is this. What are you chasing really? What are you chasing really? You're chasing work, but what are you really chasing? The travel thing you've been on, all the vacations, you can't stop thinking about it. What are you chasing really? All these ladders are just a means to an end. They're all our pursuit of the good life. So actually I want to do an exercise real quick. I made a little chart, brought a chart with me thanks to our friends on the production team. And here's some of that we'll put up here. Here's some of the ladders in the left box and some of the longings in the right box. And I want you to take a second, where you are, and I want you to pick one from the left box that's kind of your go-to lately or just in life in general, and one in the right box, one that you look to that for. And I want you to circle it either in your mind or in your notes. Take a second to do that. If you need some help, what do you daydream about? That can be a clue to both sides of that. Or what are your nightmares about? What are the things that keep you up at night? That can be a clue as well. Now here's all I'm asking. Can whatever you picked from the left box actually fully give you what you circled in the right box? Like, how much money do you need to have ultimate security or control? Do fun experiences give you comfort that lasts? I mean, are parenthood or physical appearance proving to provide the approval you're looking for? What about sex? Like, why is that so insatiable? I mean, look, the point is this. None of these ladders can guarantee anything in the right column. You know that. You've tried. They're unsatisfying. But some people spend their whole life climbing ladder after ladder after ladder after ladder, chasing God knows what. But there is no greater tragedy than getting to the end of your life and realizing you climbed a ladder that doesn't matter. I'm trying to spare you of that today. Meanwhile, years are flying by, and our kids are getting older. And so all of us have to wrestle with the question, am I climbing a ladder that does not matter? College students, empty nesters, and everybody in between. I mean, what do you want out of life anyways? Many of us, building a resume that has nothing to do with what you actually want people to say about you at your funeral. And it's not too late to change that. I put in my notes, maybe the problem isn't you don't have what you want. Maybe it's you don't know what you want or where it actually comes from. And I'll just tell you this, a major theme of the Bible and a journey that many of us are on right now is discovering where it comes from. Like what actually is the good life? What really satisfies? That's why we're doing the series. And I believe that's why the New Testament starts really with the same story that we read today. John's Gospel, specifically chapter 1. So John started calling his disciples, Andrew, Simon, Peter, Philip, and this one guy named Nathaniel. And Stephen Sowell preached on this a little bit a couple weeks ago. But Nathaniel, is one of Jacob's descendants. Their family. Nathaniel is Jacob's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson or something like that. But he knew the story. All the Jewish people did. All the Jewish people knew the story of the vision that Nathaniel's ancestor Jacob had. In fact, long before it was a song, everybody knew about the stairway to heaven. But nobody else could find it until about 2,000 years ago. Verse 47 of John chapter 1 says this, when Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." And that's a Jacob reference. Jacob was all deceit. Nathanael apparently not. Jesus is saying to Nathanael, you're different. You're different than your ancestor Jacob. Nathanael is sort of tripped out by that, and he goes, how do you know me? How do you know that I'm Jacob's, Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you. In other words, even when you're alone, I saw you. I see everything. Then Nathanael declared, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus said, you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? Dude, you're going to see way cooler stuff than that. He then added, very truly I tell you, you will see, and I love that this is in quotes, heaven open and the angels of God, here's our words, ascending and descending on who? Jesus, on the Son of God. In other words, Nathanael, Jacob, all of us. The gate is not a place. The gate is a person. It's Jesus. He's saying, I am the ladder. I am the stairway to heaven. We think all these other things will give us life. Jesus says, this is life, knowing God, knowing his son Jesus, whom we have sent. You want security, comfort, approval, power. You get that from Jesus. You want eternal life. You don't get that by climbing ladders. Simply put, you don't get to heaven that way. In fact, you don't have to climb anything. Jesus has come down to you and to me so we can get there, even or perhaps especially when we've hit rock bottom. So here's the homework. Practical kind of homework. I want you to spend some time this week really thinking about, how do I get those deep longings from Jesus and not those other ladders? Like really practically, what would that look like? Like how do I get my security from Jesus? Instead of trying to control every outcome, which I would love to do, right, and insulate my kids, and how can I trust Jesus instead with the outcomes of my life, with the unknowns of my life? As a college student, how do you trust Jesus with that? How do you trust Jesus with your kids and everything that they're dealing with right now? Here's a big one for me lately. I'm really trying to practically do this. How do I get my comfort from Jesus instead of my phone or a drink or coffee, right? Or busyness or sports? How do I get my approval from Jesus instead of what I can achieve? We're going to talk about that in a couple weeks. And how do I get my power from Jesus, my energy, my authority, my joy, my strength? And I'll tell you, all of those things, like really thinking about it, talking that out with your small group, with your friends in the car as you're driving back, all of those things might require some real wrestling, some real sacrifice, some real frustration, some real kind of fighting it out with God. But I'll encourage you with this as we close. The moment that everything turned with Jacob was actually 4 chapters later when he wrestled God. He wrestled God. His relationships got better. He got reconciled with his brother in the very next chapter because, read it for yourself in Genesis 32 later. Jacob wrestled with God. Jacob had spent his entire life looking for blessing and never once took that pursuit to God. And finally, the light bulb goes off after Jacob realizes there's got to be more to this. Then he goes, okay, God, then how about you show me the good life? And everything changed for him in that moment. Because ultimately, God's blessing is the only thing you need anyways. And Jacob got the blessing that was really available to him the whole time. And so over the next 7 weeks, we're going to talk about this. We're going to help you do this. We're going to teach you how to find that. So 7 more weeks in the series, and each of these next 7 weeks are going to be different because each of the next 7 weeks, we're going to give you a choice you can make, a decision we can make together to stop chasing who knows what, stop chasing the good life and start choosing abundant life. And you need to be here, especially if you're here with life, again, midlife, college, whatever, empty nester, and you're like, I am bored. I feel stuck. I am unfulfilled. Then be a part of this journey with us. The life that Jesus offers is the opposite of all of those things, and we're going to find it together in this series. His word says he's not far from any one of us. So I want to invite you to be a part of that with us. Why don't you stand up? We're going to sing a song before we go. I'd love to just take a second to pray for you. And even as we're getting ready for this song, why don't you take 10 seconds. I'm thinking back to the chart, thinking back to the boxes. If you want to, take 10 seconds in your heart and surrender that to Jesus. God, I've been chasing success. I've been chasing, my physical appearance. I've been chasing school stuff. I kind of made money the idol in my life. Surrender that to God. Tell him that you need his help for all those deeper things you want anyways. God, Jesus, I want my comfort from you. I want my security from you. I want my approval from you. I want to get real power from you. I don't have to always be second guessing. And God, I do pray for the friend who's here today who does feel stuck. Help them get unstuck spiritually in all of life. Would the spiritual awakening that's going to happen in their life be the catalyst to a whole life of transformation in you, Jesus? I just declare over them here that they're made for more than that. They're not made for an ordinary life. They're not made to stay stuck. This is not the end for them. They don't have to stay stuck. I pray you would lead us all into a newness of life with you, Jesus. We love you so much. We pray all this in your name. Amen.